Alright, welcome back to another training video. Today we're going to do an overview on Tower 3 and we'll also run through the operational setup and actually operations of pumping and use of the aerial device on this truck. Tower 3 and Ladder 1 are very similar. They're sister trucks. Tower 3 has the platform while Ladder 1 does not. So we'll just kind of cover all the basics on this truck. We'll start in the cab and then we'll work our way around the truck, show you all the equipment, and then again the operation on pumping and the aerial setup. From inside of the cab, first things we can do is we can kind of take a look at any of the specifics right there. Curious on length and height of the truck. The Commander style of touchscreen, this is going to control all of your truck functions, including your emergency lights, which are located here. Just a simple touch and that's going to turn on all your master emergency. From here, when you select these screens, you're able to turn individual things on and off. Same with your HVAC screen, your lighting, and then there's also just some system info and secondary menus back on the home screen. This is also the same location that we would turn on our aerial PTO and take care of any of the other items such as a generator that we might need. From inside, we have the radio and the siren controls in here. And you can also see the pump selection here for the PTO. The rest of the cab, we do have a CAD terminal over there for the officer, 6 radios, and seating for a total of 6 members, 3 forward facing, 1 rear facing. Jump into the back of the cab. Back here, we have our 4-gas.
2800, SBM Fire Marshal 10.
Have our thermal imaging camera,
SBM Fire Marshal 10.
med bag, and our Sensit are down here.
Large 3-story apartment building.
Easy access down here.
No smoke does not appear to be evacuated. Show SBM Fire Marshal 10 outbound command.
PPE. We have our N95 safety glasses.
SBM Fire
Also
Marshal
have
10,
some of our safety vests.
Large 3-story building. Alarm sounding. No smoke does not appear to be evacuated. 1346.
That's how you operate that to turn the volume down. Med gloves and hand sanitizer back there. This truck is set up with wireless headsets for crews to talk to. The 2 headsets up front are actually set up for the driver and the officer to also use those for radio communication with dispatch and whatever channel is set on our radio. From inside, we do have some spare items in here, some Tyvek suits, spare gloves, things like that that might be needed. As we walk around the truck, it's our pump panel, and also where you're going to be able to locate our pre-connected 2.5 and our 2 pre-connected 1 3/4 hose lays. So you get your green line, blue line, and your 2.5. We also have our backboard, and we do have a 20-foot section of LDH, or short section, to make that connection to the hydrant if needed. Again, if anybody's curious about any of the information in here, kind of let you see that, but this is a 2,000 gallon per minute pump. The pump carries 500 gallons of water, and we also have a 25 gallon foam tank on this system as well. So all of our controls for discharges, your tank fill, tank to pump, located here. On this truck, we do generally leave the tank fill and tank to pump cracked open. Obviously, you can't open them up all the way, but for winter operations, to allow for the water to circulate, we'll go ahead and crack both of those open. Your throttle control is here, and we do have some electronic discharge valves up here. This is for your aerial, and this is for the purple LDH officer side discharge. Your foam system's located here. We have our officer side intake control here, We do have some access to the generator and some scene lighting pump heater that can be activated from this spot as well. Your intercom system, that is to go ahead and talk to anybody up in the platform. We'll cover these when we do the jack setup. One more thing on this, the aerial waterway. That's going to select on if we're going to be able to flow water through the master stream from the pump or from a supplying engine on this truck. The driver's cabinet typically would have an SCBA. It's in for maintenance right now. We do have your threads and your reducers, coupling supplies in this drawer, some spare hoses, nozzles and wrenches in this drawer, and then we do have our ladder belts in this bottom drawer. Finally, we also carry both of our toolboxes in here as well. This next cabinet on the driver's side, we do have our tilt-out drawer. Simply press down on that and it will slide out and sit that way. Room for 2 chainsaws, 2 K14s. They're set up one with a steel blade and one with a rescue blade. You can tell by the blue blade that this one is our steel blade, meant for cutting steel, steel doors, steel rebar, metal door, garage doors, whatever that might be. And our rescue blade for if we're not sure what we're going to cut, that's going to be able to cut through wood, concrete, all the other items that we might come across. Also can cut through steel with that rescue blade, just might wear out a little bit quicker. Cleveland load set up in this compartment as well. You can see we have 2 bundles, one with a nozzle, one without, and our apartment connection bag as well with our small 2.5 with the Y to make that connection inside with some wrenches. 2 fire extinguishers. Both of these are dry chem. One is purple K and one is just a regular ABC dry chem extinguisher in this cabinet. This would be for SCBA spare bottles. We're out of spares at the moment, but they will be located on this truck at some point. This rear cabinet has 2 water cans in it. Both should be full. Always a good idea to take a look, feel that there's the weight to them, and that they're also properly filled. This is also where you're going to fill your diesel. This compartment is just kind of a miscellaneous compartment. We do have gas for our saws, some spare chainsaw blades, spare K14 blades. We have bar oil back here for the chainsaw, and then we also carry some spare foam back here as well. This tall cabinet on the driver's side is going to be where all of our tools are housed. These are just on some pull-out slides. You can see all the tools that we carry in this compartment. Lastly, back here, this is more of like a rehab and then after scene cleanup decon type of a cabinet back here. Finally, we come to our fold-out ladder if you're going to access the platform up on top. We'll cover these later, but this is where you're going to locate your jack control for setting up the outriggers. Rear compartment has a 35-foot 3-section ladder, a 24-foot 2-section ladder, 16-foot roof ladder, and we have our New York hooks set up in here as well. So from here, you can see they're labeled on this side, the lengths, and also a 10-foot folding attic ladder as well. But just Velcro straps holding them in as you need to get to them. Just go ahead and release, and you're able to pull them out once you're on scene. We also carry our 3-inch pre-connected Blitzfire setup on the back and a hose tray. Simple turn and twist on this to pull that out for packing or deployment. This is 3-inch hose. This is set up on a rear 2.5-inch coupling, pre-connected in this tray. I believe we have 400 feet of 3-inch set up on this tray. Come to our LDH in the back, 600 feet of LDH set up in the back, and that top can be open for packing. This compartment is floor dry and traffic cones. This is our PPV fan set up in this compartment. We do have wiring set up for charging in this compartment as well, if needed. Set up for more SCBAs that we are still waiting to get. Our next compartment is going to have our RIT bag, RIT rope, and our folding little giant. We also have our electrical cord buckets and all of the electrical plug adapters that we might need to come across for setting up anything on scene. An overhaul compartment, we have our salvage buckets, tarps. These are for parapet setups off of the bucket for use of a roof ladder to access a parapet down 10 feet, setting up somewhat of a ship ladder setup. We'll show that as well when we set up the ladder. Coming back around, this is the opposite side of the pump panel for the officer side. Two discharges and another intake and another 25-foot section of hose. Also have access to your pre-connected hose lines and the backboard from this location. So we come around to the front. Can access our front bumper compartment. From here we have 200 feet, 1 3/4 pre-connected in the front compartment, and a 200-foot cord reel with an automatic cord reel rewind and a distribution box as well. We'll go ahead and work on setting up and going through some of the operations of this truck next. All right, we're going to go through the operational setup if we were going to deploy this truck for pumping and for use of aerial. So battery's already turned on. Turn on our ignition switch. Start the truck. From inside of the cab, the process we're going to take is if we were on scene, our parking brake is already set. I'm in neutral. That button turns on our generator. That button turns on our aerial PTO. So now we've turned on our generator for the truck. We've turned on the aerial PTO, so now we do have access to use the jacks and the hydraulic system for that. That's all based off of this home system, or home screen from this system right here. To use the pump to get that into service, we start with neutral. We're going to switch this switch to pump. We get our first green light to turn on. From here, I'm going to come down and hit drive. Fourth gear has been selected and it's also shown in the monitor position, and our second green light is turned on, telling us that we're okay to pump. From here, I'll exit the cab. First thing I'm going to do is just set up jacks, since I do have the truck idling up and in gear right now. It's just not using the transmission for driving. This becomes a moot point once the outriggers have been set up and it's off the ground, but for now, just to show how that works. From the pump panel, now that we have it all opened up, I'm going to deploy our bumper line, the red line. I've already got it set up front. Disconnected the hose line and just have the nozzle set up, and we're going to spray off the front of the truck. Just using tank water, I'm going to go ahead and open up my tank to pump all the way. Come over to my red line. I know my hose is already all the way out because I'm not using hose and it's already set up. So I'm going to go ahead and open the red line. Water is flowing. From here, I'm going to come over to my throttle. I'm in pressure, so I'm going to go ahead and set it. 125 PSI just by throttling up. And that's how we get the pump to work. From here we could select other lines. We can do anything that we would like. If we had an intake set up, we could go ahead and start supplying in. We're just using tank water right now. Bring it back down to idle. Go ahead and shut down the red line now that it's idled down. And since I do not want the truck to overheat, I have my tank to pump open. I need to have my tank fill as well open to circulate some of that water. I'm leaving the truck in pump right now. We're just not flowing any water outside. It's just going from the tank to the pump back to the tank. That's setup of pumping. We're also going to set up how we could deploy the outriggers and use the aerial device. So you can see we have our outriggers control for this side, outrigger control for this side as well. Once I switch this outrigger switch to on, it's going to go ahead and give me another screen over here. This screen is going to tell me the slope, grade, all the different information, and my jack setup. This is telling me that the driver's side is the low side. So the first side that I'm going to set up is my high side. If I set up my low side first, potentially I'm going to have to reset that once the other side's been put down. So if I start with my high side, I'll come over. You can see I can just hit my out for the front and the rear outrigger, and we want to keep an eye on it. So one hand's holding that, the other part of my body is leaning across the truck and looking out. Once those have been thrown out, I can come and grab my outrigger plates. I like to throw the plate and leave the handle on the inside. And what that does is just takes away that tripping hazard. Somebody that's done this a few times, they're gonna grab the plate before they set the outriggers up. I prefer to just wait and see where they're gonna be, and then go ahead and put them underneath. Just depends on how many people you have and what your setup is gonna be. Now that those are out, I can go ahead and send them down. So we're just gonna push down on there. Outriggers are gonna come down. And I'm just waiting for them to make contact. Bring the truck up a little bit. I like to just see that the holes for the pins are showing, and I can see that I have pressure on the system because the truck raised up. When I come back over here, we can see I have pressure because these are in green and they're 100% all the way out. If we were short jacking, I'll kind of show what that looks like as I send these out. It's going to tell you how far the jack has been pushed out from the truck. So if we were short jacking, we would have full operation on the right side and limited operation on this left side. But we're going to show full operation. So we'll go ahead and send these all the way out. And from there, go ahead and grab the plates from this side. Now that the plates have been put in place, my outriggers are all the way extended. I'm going to go ahead and lower them. As they come down, they're going to make contact. I want to keep an eye on them, but I also want to see my slope get underneath a 1/2 degree. And that's just going to allow us to operate as best we can. My grade is still at a little bit of a -6, so if I bring the front outrigger up a little bit, that brings my grade within as well. I've got 100% pressure down, or out, I should say, for my jacks. All 4 are green, which tells me that they all have pressure and that we should be good to go. Everything's been set. From here, I'm gonna take my pins, and I like to place them so the yellow is facing back. The reason that is when I come back to put this down later, I've got the yellow pin showing me that it's not going to be able to come down. I have to remove the pin before I can lower this. The pins are just there for a safety measure. If we lose hydraulic pressure, it's not going to allow the ladder to come all the way down off of the outriggers. The second one was right here in that pump panel. and they just go in the highest one that's available. Rear outriggers right there. And again, for the front outrigger is going to be in the pump panel right here. From there, outriggers have been set up, and we're free to climb up to the turntable. And now we're able to access the ladder for operation. From here, we've got the joystick. It's going to tell me which direction we'll move it in which ways. This screen is going to give me some information as well, as far as where the current positions of the ladder are and some of the other lighting options that I have available to me. So I can turn some lights on and off of the ladder from this screen here. There's a trigger on the front. It only works as I'm squeezing that, and I'm going to go ahead and just raise. As I pull back on the joystick, the ladder raises. It's moving slow right now because I'm in turtle mode. So as I put it in rabbit, we're going to be in the fast mode, and the ladder will move much more quickly. We can move in multiple options, or multiple directions I should say. And a nice feature on this as well is, as soon as I let go, the ladder doesn't start swaying and stopping right away. One caveat to that is you have to ensure that you're not operating too closely to an object and letting go, because the ladder will continue to move. So as you get closer and closer to a building, we want to switch back over to that turtle mode, slow things down, and we want to ensure that we're kind of creeping into that final position instead of just quickly letting go and allowing that ladder to go into the building or whatever object that there is. From here, we can control the monitor as well. So what I'm going to do first is just pull this off to the side and show if we were going to go to that building. Works better in turn. There we go. And we're going to go to the shed. As I get closer, I'm going to go ahead and switch to turtle. I'm also just going to go out to the bucket now to show the final phase of this. As I walk out, I can show you some of the other features that we have. We do have a mounted 10-foot roof ladder on this side. And this side over here, in the box, is the Junkins basket, Stokes basket, where you can go ahead and get a patient loaded for transportation and use off of the aerial. As we continue to go up, we'll make our way to the platform itself. You can see in the platform, I have a Halligan, an axe. We do have another nozzle tip for the master stream that we can flow off the end. Your intercom system is right here. You don't need to push anything on this end. It's actively always listening to you. You get the same screen on this end that you did at the base. So once that's been removed, I have the same functionality to go ahead and do some fine tuning and moving the ladder into place as I need. The screen right now is telling me my different degrees, angles, extension left, how high I am off of the ground. And as I get closer, I'm just going to keep an eye on the building so I make sure I'm protecting my waterway and also the platform itself. We don't want the platform to come in contact with the building. Once I'm over the building, I can now release the door and access the roof. Another item that we carry up in the bucket, we do have 50 feet section of hose with a nozzle up here as well. That can be hooked in to the standpipe connection off of the platform. We'll cover that in a little bit as well once we move this down and cover over some more features. The green on here is just telling us that we have not exceeded our weight capacity. If you start to see this turn to an orange or a red, you're going to hear some alarm systems go off. It's going to tell us that we're maxed out our capacity for weight, and we might be working on a side that we're not able to work on. The green over here is telling us that we have good hydraulic pressure. And up here, it's telling us what our GPM and PSI is at our master stream. Right now, we're not flowing any water, so there's no water left. We're being told right now by this screen that we have 12 feet left of extension, so I have 12 feet further that I can push out. It's telling us that I'm 21 feet off of the ground. I'm 82 feet away from the turntable. I'm at a negative 50-degree turn, and I'm a 6-degree angle off of the top of the truck. So just kind of telling us some of the things that we used to have to manually figure out on this truck. I'll go ahead and move this into a final position, and we'll cover some more information. All right, we're going to cover some of the functions that can be done off of the platform itself. First of all, master stream is right here. To be able to use the standpipe function on this truck, you would be flowing water through this master stream. So we probably wouldn't want water coming out of both of these at the same time because somebody would be hooking up a hose from here. So the way to shut that off is from inside here. There's just a knob. By closing this, I'm shutting off the waterway for the elevated master stream, but still allowing this to be charged. So from here, I've shut the water system off. If we were flowing water through the water pipe, it wouldn't be allowed to go through the master stream, but I would still be able to get water out of this connection here. So I would go ahead and open up whichever one I needed. And then from here, by that turn, I'm gonna open up water to come out of this. Another function is the drain or the shower curtain that can be deployed on this as well. And that is just located underneath this platform. It's just a shower head that would protect this in case of fire. You can kind of see it right through here, and we'll show it in a little bit. But by turning that switch, I'm opening up a shower head that's going to protect this from any flames that are coming up underneath and that heat. If anybody was working in here, they could open it up with that. This direction is closed. To use that master stream, our nozzle controls are right here. As I turn and use these nozzles and switches, I can go ahead and get that into the correct position. So you have left, right, up, down, and this can change from a smooth stream to a fog stream. I also have manual overrides. If I needed to if I had a loss of power, I can go ahead and put those back into where they need to be. So we'll put that back in the stow position, which is turned all the way back there and all the way back down. All right, another function that we have on here is the ability to set up to go over a parapet. Using these mounts and these brackets is here to set up that roof ladder. So we would have to access through this doorway right here from the platform. But basically, these brackets mount in there and secure the pin. And we take our lower bracket, mount it in there, and securing the pin. This one is labeled as the top, and then that one is not labeled, so that one's your bottom. From there, we'd be able to take a ladder and we would mount it on these brackets. Granted, I did not leave a good spot here to show how it can go on here, but the general idea is setting this up in this fashion would allow this to work as a ship's ladder. This would be not set up properly, but if there was a parapet, we'd be able to have that 8 feet that we would be able to drop down to the ground with this set up in a lower configuration. Lastly, we have a setup for a Stokes basket. These brackets are already in place on the front of the bucket. All we have to do is release those pins, turn these into place, and then replace the pin back in to secure them. And as you can see, you have another spot for the Stokes basket to secure in here. I'll kind of show how that looks. So one side has the pinhole and the other side has this for securing through that loop. I'll get that on there and show you how that looks. You can see the Stokes basket's been secured to the front of the platform to these brackets, the holes fitting into those pins, and then these slots lining up for that pin that was mounted on the bracket, be able to slide through the Stokes basket, through the basket, and back into the Stokes to secure it on there, and that's on both sides. And that creates that to be a nice stable platform to rescue a patient from a high elevation. When putting the aerial device back away, it's important to ensure if we've filled that waterway at all with water, we need to open up this aerial drain before we put that back. So I went ahead and filled it with water just so we could kind of see how that would work. Leaving both ends open allows for it to drain evenly. So what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and raise the ladder up to an elevation to run all that water back out through that lower drain instead of out through the top. All right, so before I stow the ladder, you can see there's still water coming out through the drain. I'm going to elevate the platform high to get all the water to run back down the waterway and through the drain. All right, we didn't need to bring it up this high, but I wanted to show the extent of what we can do. I think we should be able to read that. We've gone up to 100 feet, so that's the maximum height that we can go. My angle's at 74 degrees. I believe that's as high as I can get it. I can get a little bit more out of it. And you can see that is a pretty straight shot down from up here. But this truck is able to reach 100 feet up, and then obviously you'd have to stretch out as well because most of our buildings that we're trying to access are not straight above the ladder truck. So you just have to factor in that extension off of the side. But there's your view from 100 feet up. As we bring this ladder back down to bed the ladder back into the apparatus, I'm making sure that there's no obstructions and we're not going to hit anything. It is a smart aerial, so it should avoid hitting itself, but it's always a good idea just to ensure that we're not going to hit anything. We do have an auto stow option, but we're not able to get to that auto stow until we meet certain parameters and get close enough to the truck. So as we get a little bit closer, you'll see another icon pop up. Alright, once we're within that 20 degrees mark of the truck and we're not fully extended out or rotated around, this icon will pop up. That's basically letting us know that we can auto stow this and put the ladder back in without having to try to manually line it up. So what you have to do is hold it in, and while you're holding it in, the ladder will find its home. Still keeping in mind that if there was a tree nearby or anything else, that it could still hit that. We just need to make sure that that's why we're leaving our finger on the switch and able to pull it off in the event that we're not able to put that away or we hit something. and we're fully bedded. The last thing we're going to do before we put this truck away is we're going to go ahead and pull our pins from the outriggers back in their homes. Now we're able to go ahead and bring our outriggers back up. Keeping an eye on everything, we're going to go ahead and go back to our outriggers, go up. Oh, we need to switch our outrigger switch back on. Fully in, and then once that's happened, we're going to be able to bring them back in. Always keeping an eye on this just to make sure that nobody's working between the trucks and the jacks while we're bringing them back in. Okay, come back to this side. The pins have been removed from this side. Outriggers up. And again, keeping an eye on them, we'll bring them both in. Shut off our outrigger switch. And we basically put the truck away. I won't bore you with the rest of it. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.